Wherever you are, wave hi to all your brethren that are in Facebook land, because they're also streaming live with us now. So wave hi, we're waving. Hi, Facebook people.
Facebook over here.
Facebook people over there. Hey. All right, so today we're implementing Facebook streaming, and then we're going to add Periscope next time. And we'll further spread out platforms and our influence around the universe. Today's a special episode. One of the reasons why is that for all of you business owners out there, may or may not be aware, the Fair Labor Standard Act that's passed and finalized regarding how compensation is determined for people that were salaried previously. Now, due to the law, there's been a doubling of what is considered a threshold for when people qualify for overtime pay. So what's that mean for you? Well, that's what we're going to discuss today, what it means for you. So sit back, take a Valium, puff, pass, slurp 6 shots. I don't know what you got to do.
Just so we don't mischaracterize this, the law was actually passed in like 1930.
Right, it's just been revised.
Updated regulations to it.
Details.
Which one makes it seem like Congress just voted yesterday?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, Congress doesn't just vote on it. So, no, this isn't that. But it is.
And it's not executive order. It's
strictly
it's a course of business.
Department.
That's
It's
right.
by the department, right?
It's a good way to say it. It's a law because it is law.
It is law. No, it's absolutely law.
It's a law, and it is the Fair Labor Standards Act.
It's just not necessarily new law. It's an update to an old existing law.
Right, so they put a Hemi in it.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They dropped a Hemi in
They
it.
put a Hemi in it. So that being said, sit down, relax, or grab the white knuckles, and get ready. So today, we're going to just kind of let this go open flow. For those of you that don't know, what happened was they moved the standard of qualification for overtime, where it used to be 23, whatever,
23,000.
23,000 for sake of argument, to just under $47,000 as the standard for overtime pay. So what that means is that if you weren't getting paid overtime before and your salary was $30,000, your employer as of now has to pay you overtime. There's a lot of chambers out there right now. Gulp, it's okay.
Yes, that's true.
Because you guys are in trouble.
Yeah.
We'll help you, but right now you're in trouble. But here's the best part. The best part is December 1st. So all the cats and dogs will now start ringing down.
Take a while, but
Right.
it's retail and fast food and
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
the people that have been getting grinded.
Okay.
You
to
know,
be fair,
I think.
there's not a lot of retail employees or fast food employees who are salary exempt status. There may be some managers who work in those levels
Right.
who are salary exempt status, but it's not like everybody who owns a retail business is
No.
going to have to pay overtime.
No, but it's
For all,
No,
they're already
they're
paying
managers.
overtime. for
no, it's your
employees.
traditional fast food middle managers.
Well, let's
Possibly,
step back a second,
yes.
right?
Yeah, sure.
So
Take us back.
the Fair Labor Standards Act, right, in 1930, whatever.
Should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
it,
we should
yeah.
do that.
Right.
Go on.
So I'm
What
going
is-
well, let's start with John.
Okay, I'm John. I'm the insurance guy. Nice to be here.
I think I belong to the ride just like you. I'm locked in. Let's go.
I'm Ellen Patnaude. I am the coach with the squad, and I'm gonna hang on for the ride as well today.
And Ben VanGelderen, I'm the squad's legal eagle.
He's the guy who actually read the.
He wrote the law.
He read the law.
No, he read it.
Oh, he read the law.
Well, when I was
Details.
in law school for health law, we learned a lot about the regulatory process because basically everything compliance related comes from the regulatory process. And so that's kind of when I learned that you really have to start by reading the very, the actual Federal Register publication, and you've got to read it, and you've got to have the statute and flip back and forth, and that's just really the only way to get a sense of what's going on. So that's what I did last night, and we'll see how long my brain can keep working on this, because it was I made it through 100 pages out of 300, and I was proud of myself, but then I just, no more.
You melted. Well, I liked your notes.
So I'm
you
your
gave us
financial
something to talk
guru at
about.
the squad, and my job is to make the money make sense. And right now, it doesn't make sense with the new law. I know my cohorts here may disagree, but for me, no, it's scary. But
Yeah.
My name is Lippens. I am the payroll professional in the group, the one who helps you set your salary exempt employees.
right.
Track the time.
He's the hand of the man. He's the hand of the man. Right?
He's gonna keep you out of pokey, is what he's
So
gonna do.
I have a lot of we'll talk a lot about it for you.
Yeah.
And I'll throw down a number flag when they get crazy.
And he'll be the numbers guy. Of
Of
course there will be, but that's the general.
John and I are just gonna drink.
Well, I want to know. No, I want to
You
know.
represent the general business owner at home who's freaking out and just
Yeah.
drinking.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what I want to do is ask you guys first. You know, as I'm the guy sitting on the other side watching this. You know, define this for me so that I understand.
Right.
You know, really how this
What's
law
nice?
works.
So let's start.
What's the difference
Well,
and what's
Let's
its
start with the
effect going to be?
basics. Yeah,
Let's
right.
start with 1930 whatever as
Right.
part of the New Deal.
Okay.
So we're
where
gonna
they
go way
said-
back.
Yeah.
Way back.
'Cause that's where you
The
have to go
Depression
back.
happened, all hell broke
Sure,
loose,
and-
and now a law was made.
Right, and this law was the one that was the Fair Labor Standards Act that said, you know, you gotta have a minimum wage, you gotta have overtime if somebody works over, probably wasn't 40 hours back then, or it might have been, but whatever.
I was like 60 probably.
Sure. And then,
And they were
you know,
9
no
years old.
child labor,
Yeah.
like all
And they were
these
9
things
years
were
old.
passed. Right, all these things were passed. And then the way that it worked is the law just said, we're gonna create some exemptions to the overtime requirements.
Right.
Right, so some of these people don't get paid overtime. And one of those exemptions was for administrative, professional, executive employees.
Yes.
And the thought process was, okay, if you're somebody who's an executive or administrative role professional, you've got other benefits, like you've probably got good health insurance, you've got job mobility. you've
Equity
got-
share, maybe.
Sure, equity, you've got, you've got independence. if
You're
you
also
will,
being
control.
paid for the work that you do, paid for your job position, not necessarily the hours
Time on
that
the
you
job.
put in on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
These are the guys that take
you know,
work
this
home
is
with
the
them all
key.
the time. They're
Sure,
walking around
yes.
working. You know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Quick side note,
Right.
Renee, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy
Let's
birthday,
sing.
Renee.
Yeah.
Happy
birthday to you.
Okay, that's enough.
All
Alright, go ahead.
Right. So Congress said, give these people an exemption, and then Department of Labor now figure out how to define that exemption.
Yes.
And the Department of Labor really did not do a good job of it for a very long time. It was based on duties, and there was a salary exemption, and then all this happened. So in 2004, they redid the test, and they said, okay, this is how it's going to look. There's a 3-part test to figuring out whether you qualify for an exemption. Part 1 is, are you paid on a salary or paid hourly? That's easy. Part 2 is, what is your salary? If it's above a certain threshold, then you're good as long as you're doing the right duties. If it's below that, then no, you don't qualify.
Okay.
And the thought process behind that was basically salary is a good indicator of how important your job is. And so because the duties test is, and that's the third part is right, is what are your duties? But that's really gray. I mean, even if you break right down to it, it's what is the primary job duty that you do, right? And so they have to break down the facts. They have to look at what percentage of time do you spend
That's
on
tough to determine.
managing. Right, and so they fall back on the salary thing is, okay, this is a black and white line. If you're under the line, you qualify for overtime. If you're over the line, you still have to meet the duties test,
Okay.
but you can be eligible for not.
So right, but they now just my understanding is really the whole flavor of the law change in 2004 was that it made it easier for them to plug people into that exempt category. They didn't have to. It wasn't as hard the test to prove that
Right.
they're an exempt employee. So in effect, it made it much easier for businesses to plot people into positions, pay them salary, and work them.
Right, because the duties test shifted, and I don't know a lot about this, but
Right.
there used to be sort of 2 different duties tests, and you had 2 different salary requirements, and they just kind of, it was a really complex thing, and so in 2004 they simplified it. So there's 1 duties test, but they didn't adjust, well, according to the Department of Labor, when they promulgated these rulings, they said when they changed it to 1 duty test, they didn't accurately change the salary
They did.
threshold.
The threshold, yeah.
Right, so they left
They
that.
They left that the
In like
same.
Very similar to what
They
it was.
did double it. They did double
And
it.
it's
or triple it.
so now we're on talking about history too. I just want
Right.
to point out that between like the 1930 when the law
Right.
passed and between 1970, that wage limit changed something like 25 times or
Yeah.
something like that.
Right.
Between 1970 and 2004, it didn't change at all.
Right.
So they did do an update. They made the test simpler. They raised the limit slightly,
Okay.
and then they didn't revisit it for the last 12 years.
Right.
So part of the reason we're going back and revisiting is saying that, it's really not appropriate for us to not change this wage limit
Right.
on a regular basis. Inflation has gone up, has shrunk the amount that value quite a bit.
Right.
Right.
This is the honest truth.
No,
Well,
between now
there's
and
no
then-
argument in that.
Right.
So a lot of it is complicated, and it
Yeah.
really has to do, a lot of the justification, and this is all going to be challenged.
Yeah,
Late, I have no
absolutely.
idea what's going to happen. It has to do with the way the test was set up before,
Sure it does.
and the way the test was set up in 2004, and that's just kind of a whole ball of worms.
Well, in 2004, they went to the number 2 standard, which is the threshold, right?
Right.
And really, that's what they're basing it on, is the threshold, as long as, they have some administrative, professional, or executive
No,
duties.
it's not some. Got to be
Yeah.
a primary duty.
Yeah. You have to be a primary, basically, administrative employee to qualify for the exemption.
Right.
Which
Now-
in today's knowledge economy is most people.
A lot.
Because
In the salaried space.
Not if you look at the definition from the Department of Labor.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because the definition of the Department of Labor says that you need to have autonomy, you need to have
Yeah.
independence in terms of making judgment calls. You have
Yeah.
to be making judgment calls. So secretaries, right, which are the big one, are explicitly called out in the regulations as saying secretaries do
Can't
not
be
qualify,
exempt. No.
no matter what they make.
No,
If you
I get that. So I guess the opposite. I agree.
Right.
So the opposite of that, I get it. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's always been that way.
Mhm.
There has been some changes with this. Essentially, if you're a salaried employee and you're working in a job and you have a boss in any way, shape, or form, someone who's managing the work
Right.
you're doing, you're not exempt. So, as for example, I used to be a software designer.
You were?
Yeah. And
No way.
in my position, I had much autonomy. I made way more than what that minimum
Right.
exemption amount was, but I still wasn't salaried exempt.
Right.
I did not get paid time and a half though. So there were
So
other
you fall on the other threshold.
classifications in it. We got paid straight time for the overtime that we worked. But so there are some flavors that go into that, and there
Yeah.
still are some.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, essentially, if you're having someone direct the type of work you're doing, you're not exempt, and you never were
Sure.
exempt.
But it's sort of like the independent contractor employee
Yeah, it's
debate where it's
Yeah, let's
really
not-
hard
let's
to-
not-
No,
Well,
well,
I'm just saying because
no,
it's really
I get
it's
that.
really gray. It's really hard
Oh,
to enforce,
yeah.
and that was the problem the Department of Labor was
Right.
having.
Okay.
And so that's why they jumped up the salary thing.
Yeah.
So now when they come in to enforce, they don't have to look at your duties.
right.
For the most part,
They look
just
at
get to say,
the
well,
wages.
you're
They
not
can say,
making enough.
yeah,
So-
you're not at that level, so all
So-
these people should be paying.
So I just want to ask that, because I'm already confused. Do you know what I mean? Just sitting here,
Mhm.
and I really want to make it so that our audience can
Oh,
have a
so
good
let me
takeaway. So let's
put it-
define it. Yeah.
Let's put it into general space.
So, yes,
Let's
be
say
very
you-
simple about
okay,
it,
So
right?
it's very
Yeah.
simple. You have salaried exempt employees in your office. They're getting paid $30,000 a year. Okay. New law says, or new law as of December 1st says that if you want to maintain the exempt status, meaning that they get a salaried pay, and no matter if they work 40 or 30
Or 100.
or 100, they're getting the same pay rate.
Yep.
If you want to maintain that, they have to make more than
46,
$47,270.
Yeah, 46.5 or something.
There's change added onto that too. I don't have the exact number.
Right,
added in
and
my
it
head.
may change.
And it may
By
change
month.
too. But if they don't make more than that amount, then they qualify for overtime. Therefore, anything you pay them over, anything they work over 40 hours a week, they get paid time and a half at an hourly rate for that. So there's a variety of changes. Let's say you have one of those employees, okay,
Or 7.
and you don't plan on changing them to the $47,000 amount. Now you have two decisions to make as an employer.
Okay.
You can reclassify all your employees as hourly,
Okay.
which means they have to track their time on a daily basis,
Right.
and all their work is reported and they get paid out. That also means that individual, if they work less than 40 hours a week, they only get paid for their time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
You can change your salaried employees to what they call salary hourly sensitive. Okay? This is
Okay.
an employee who has a salary amount, and on standard they get paid one amount. Okay? It is based on a 40-hour work week. If they work more than that, they get paid overtime. If they work under that, they get paid the same amount. That's
Okay.
what that means. Okay? Now, both employees, and this is important, will be, going forward, required to track every single one of the hours they work. in a written, defined timekeeping program, or in some manner.
So let's clarify what that means. So if I'm super industrious employee and I want to be the best employee of all the employees in the whole company,
Motivated.
I've got a fire like nobody's fire, and I'm okay if I don't get paid for it because I want the gold star.
Yeah.
And I take home all kinds of work, and I work 12 hours at home because I don't sleep for 4 extra days. Do I have to get paid for that?
Absolutely. And
Well,
regardless of
let's
whether or not they
stop.
report it to your
Let's stop
employer.
for
No,
a
okay, wait. But I want to say,
Whoa,
if the Department of Labor comes in and audits you,
Let's talk
and
about
they
the
find
law,
out
right?
you had employees that were working like that, you are required to pay them.
Stop.
Well, let's stop for a second.
Stop.
Because
Penalty.
here's the thing.
I want to know what the penalty is.
Well,
We'll get
let's
to the penalty in a
let's
second,
talk
but
about
I want to. The reality of the situation is,
It's so
the
hard that
Department of
person
Labor
going
does
there,
not find out unless somebody tells them.
That's absolutely true.
Right?
Yes.
So if you're really a gold star person that is genuinely 100%
Right,
like
on
when
fire.
I used to work in a restaurant, I would never clock in before I got my first table because that
Sure.
would let me work more hours, right?
Right.
So if the Department of Labor came in and asked me that, I would be like, no, I didn't. Whatever, I clock in when I clock in, right? But you got to make sure that the employee could at any time change their mind about all this and come
That's
back
the
and
tricky
bust.
part. So that's the tricky part.
So
What
it
I'm
is the
saying is,
law.
yes,
Right.
it's absolutely the law. If you have an employee that likes to work out of overtime, if you have a millennial that likes to check their email at home,
Right.
all of those things count under the law.
Right.
Whether or not
Right.
That's it.
you may only get caught if they report you, but if one person
But that's it.
reports
Then
and
they're
you
all
have
in.
40 who are doing it,
Right.
everyone's in.
And everybody's
So,
in. Not
so
the
this
whole
is an
risk,
important
right?
thing.
Sure.
If you're
I'm
going to
saying
make
that.
those determinations that you're not going to push people to the exempt status, you have to very tightly manage how people
Time.
are working in.
So it's
in
it's a
office and
paperwork.
not in office.
It's going to be a
Well,
paperwork.
sorry, I bring this
burden.
up because there's a company here in Livingston County, and they control very tightly everybody within their organization to a time card.
Mhm.
So if I'm like a manager and I had an after-hour event, and I wanted to show you guys around, and I'm gonna be there for like 2 hours, I gotta stop, check, do I have 2 hours I can give you? I don't call the owner. The owner's like, well, I can't make it. Okay, go ahead. Sweep. Okay, this has already happened before the law changed
Sure.
because they were conscientious that at some point in time maybe. So I
Right.
want to create a culture that's conducive to that, right? So even their hourly managers people are like, no, I can't show your chamber group around.
Mhm.
Hold on, I'll call the owners. Okay, if they're not going to come out, I can. Swoop.
I
Okay,
know
next 2
many
hours.
businesses that manage their business like that,
Right,
and their
right.
key cards won't let them open a door outside of their.
That's
regular
right.
work hours.
Yep, that's
There's
right.
lots of companies.
Oh, wow,
that do
that's
that
pretty
currently.
cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question for Ellen so that she can participate, right?
Hi,
Yeah, Ellen. How you doing?
So one
Wait,
of the
no,
things
wake
that
up,
we've
wake
been
up.
kind of talking about is like how the employers restrict them, but when the Department of Labor has gone in to look at the test for determining whether or not it's worked or not, it doesn't matter if they have permission or not.
Mhm.
You can 100% say no taking work home.
Yeah.
If they do it anyway, the test
It
is
counts.
anything that provides a benefit to the employer
Mhm.
counts. So how do you handle a situation as like an employer where you've got all these people that are like, I want to check my email at home. I want to, like, I don't want.
I want to be a champion.
How do you like tell them not to? You know.
Don't be a champion. Not allowed. Be a mushroom.
Well, there's a lot of people out there that
Ellen,
work.
thanks,
Well, wait a
Ellen.
minute. I'm just adding to this, but there's a lot of people out there that might feel that they need to work those extra hours to keep up
I
because
don't fear.
right or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it might be.
Yeah, right. But listen, we're talking about the gold star people, not the gold star person who says, "I'm going to do it all. I want to be the."
Well, it doesn't matter why
Right?
they're motivated to,
No.
right? They're motivated to.
Well, I mean, wouldn't this provide for some? So employees don't get to make decisions about what their work schedules are. Generally speaking,
No.
generally speaking, the employers get to make those
Sure.
decisions, right?
Yes.
So part of what I'm thinking about is what's the culture within the organization? If the culture within the organization up until now has been one that encourages this kind of behavior, that encourages lots of work being taken home and handled outside of the traditional working hours, then that's a culture conversation
Yeah.
within the organization that's got to happen
Mm.
because the owners need to be very conscientious of how this is actually going to affect them in
Play
terms
out,
of dollars and cents. So if there is a culture shift that begins to take place within the organization, then it's, if the employer is dictating to the employees, we aren't going to do this after hours anymore, period, then is the employer somehow responsible if the employees still under the radar
Well,
take the
this is-
work? Let me
yeah,
ask the question. If they take the work home and they're going under the radar and they've been explicitly instructed not to, are the business owners going to be hung out to dry
Yes.
They
if
would
that
be,
somehow
yes.
Is
shows
that a
up?
terminable offense?
No, to the
So
law.
let's-
No, is that a
this
terminable
where-
offense though for the
This is
employee?
where I think it's important to think about the penalties.
Yeah,
Because
that.
in that situation, the Department of Labor would probably not throw a book at them and charge them the maximum and do all this stuff.
No.
But the
But-
test, at least as of now,
Yes.
is does what was performed provide a benefit to the employer?
Period.
And if it does, it does. Because the mindset is that like, look, yeah, we know this isn't fair, but the employees answering emails in off
At
time
2 a.m.
at 2 a.m. benefits the employer because the employer is doing
You need to
good.
pay 'em.
And they just made it simple. They put the onus on
And
the
let's make
employer.
it clear
That's
that
true.
that has not changed at all. That was the case on last Friday. It's the same case
Right.
now.
I know, but the provability of that wasn't enforced because there was such a low threshold.
It was,
Right,
it
because
was
there's
still
a
enforced,
financial
but there's
incentive.
that
But there's a
threshold.
financial incentive to say, man, I need to track every damn thing my employee does because I got to pay them every minute they do anything.
That makes it
That's
hard
right.
for a lot of employees. A
Well,
lot of
I
employers.
think there's going to be, myself, I think, looking at the numbers, right, that a dollar cost, like, let's say it's $15 an hour for sake of argument. That's what it boils down to for everybody that's involved in this hourly versus the average salary, right? My real cost as the employer is actually around 19. So I have to say, all right, 19 times, let's say 2,500 hours, because that's 50 hours a week times 50 hours, right? That's the average overtime salary
Well,
person.
they use
right?
10 hours a week times.
I'm sorry,
number of
50,
average employees
50
you have.
hours a week
Yeah.
times 50 weeks in the year is 2,500 for sake of argument. Okay? Yes?
It depends on how many employees. So if you're talking about,
No.
I have 5
one
salaries
employee.
and employees.
One employee. I don't care
Go
if it's one of
One
one,
employee.
one employee.
10 hours.
I
a
was
week.
working 50 hours a week before. Period. 50 weeks a year because most
No.
salary.
No, because it's only
No.
the 10
It's
that they
10
have
hours
to
a week.
calculate.
Times those 50 weeks. So it's 500 hours.
Because
No,
it's only
I
what's
get
over
where you're
about
going on that end of it,
40.
but I'm looking at the whole overall cost. Basically, at the end of the day, I have an overall cost. If I'm paying you a salary of $30,000, my real cost to you is not 30 grand.
No.
My real cost to have you employees is around $43,000.
Yeah, I guess once
Okay,
you include.
so I'm like, all right, 43,000 divided by my hourly cost equals X, and I have no pen and paper here or no calculator, right? So 43,000 times X. If X is 2,500 hours, here's my real cost, right? So that's the way you got to break it down. And for the employer, you got to say, okay, that's my financial impact. I have to look at it in that
Right.
perspective with everything I do. Because at the end of the day, that's how they're going to choose.
Well, it's
So
not-
what they allow to
it's
happen
not
in
the
their
cost.
culture or not is all relative to their dollar. And if you think different, then you don't understand market economics. Because at the end of the day, the market will drive all that because I only have so many dollars to spend.
Well,
When I'm out of dollars, I'm broke.
I think we're missing something here. I just want to put this out there. Just, what about, this forces all these employers to really manage productivity now because they might have had, people that were paid based
Yeah,
on
they didn't
production, right? And if it takes you, twice as long, but that's okay because I'm paying you for production, and this person
okay, so
works
when
at a
you
certain
say-
pace. So now they have to what? Now we have
For
to now
Amazon, it works.
we have to micromanage everybody to make sure that they're not standing around the water cooler too long. And
So this is a difficult thing, right? Is
You know?
I think that you guys lost me like when you
Yeah.
said 40 hours there, but I think that most employers don't actually do that because they just don't do it. They should do it. They have to do it. That's how you make an educated decision.
They're
for
going
money.
to if they don't
They
now.
have to.
well,
now,
eventually they'll.
right? But
Yeah.
I think a lot of them weren't even coming to that. They weren't
You're
even
going
thinking
to.
about that.
You have to because at the end of the day, now the law just said you can no longer just blanket give somebody a salary. And Bessie, who performs an X in output, and Jackie, who performs an X in output, and they're not the same. Well, the law just said their hourly time output is the same.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Now I've got to recalculate based on that. You're saying they're not forced to make that change, but I'm telling you,
They are.
they are forced to make that change because I have to look at the overall time. Like, so if Bessie clocked in 50 hours and she made 12 units, I didn't care. She's flat.
Bessie who's
Bessie-
making units isn't a salaried exempt employee under any way, shape, or under this law at all.
Okay, I don't care. she does 75,000.
Whatever a unit is. A unit is a
She does
deal.
100,000 phone calls. I don't care what
Okay,
her
but stop,
output
because
is,
this
right?
is a really important point
Yeah.
that I really want to make, is the salary exemption is just part of the test.
Sure.
The primary duties test is really the big thing
The
too.
meat, right?
The meat of it. So what the Department of Labor said over and over in the regulations is, yeah, we understand that Bessie, who was getting paid, who was working 50 hours and getting paid a salary, wasn't getting overtime, but really she should have been getting overtime,
Right.
and this just allows us to enforce it better.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, but that's back to my
That's
point,
the key,
right? But Bessie's output is not enough to qualify for overtime. Because by giving her overtime, now I
I
said
see,
she gets a
yeah.
premium. Bessie,
Sure,
you're awesome. So you're going to get an extra 50% for every hour you put out.
right.
Awesome. Well, I only make like 1 unit of output an hour. Well, but my boy over here, he makes 1.4 units an hour. I'm not going to give you overtime if I can give him overtime at 1.4 units an hour to your 1 unit an hour.
Yeah. But I
Whatever
think
that
the
is,
argument from the
answering,
Department of-
but whatever it is, it doesn't matter,
if
right?
it's
I'll
something that can
calculate.
be tracked in units, I would almost 100% of the
I-
time.
it's a
say-
You're
bad
being
example.
literal. You're
It's
being
a-
literal.
it-
That's
That's
how the
how it
Department of
works.
Labor is
Yeah.
gonna look
Right,
at
but it's
stuff.
production.
It's
It's production.
period.
But here's the reality is
Production,
that
period.
the workforce is filled with people that are being utilized in that manner.
Right.
They
You know
are
what I mean?
properly
So
utilized.
there's where the big change is. So I'm gonna drop this one more time. I wanna know what the penalty is and what the employer faces for violation,
And we'll
because I
talk
didn't,
about
I,
that.
that wasn't
There's
clear.
a couple of
I
things
just,
that I want to kind of push out there now.
Okay.
Our job as a business squad is to make sure that clients or people who are potential clients are utilizing and at the appropriate compliance.
Yes.
Whether or not, if Bessie's producing units under probably 95% of the
Bessie,
case,
we love you.
if she was under that salary exemption or she was around that salary exemption, she was probably misclassified as an employee on Friday as she was today.
Okay.
All we're
Well,
doing
that's a
is
given.
changing
So that's a given.
the
right?
roundabout manner. So what?
No one argue that.
In certain ways, this is going to make it easier for you as a business owner to follow the compliance of the law and to make sure that if a
It's
deal
like a very
happens,
clear-cut line, right? Like
exactly, you can make sure that you're covered.
Takes you off the
Although I
I mean,
do
that-
want to point out too, although you go ahead.
No, I mean that's a very important distinction to make for people is that
Talking all over each other.
you don't
Too much
you
going
don't
on.
have to raise people's salary
Right.
to $47,000. You do have to track their time better. You do have to, as a manager, as a business owner, make sure that the production that's happening within your business is happening efficiently.
Right.
That's something that we should all be doing anyways. That has nothing to do with the way the law.
And you as a payroll provider for the squad could probably help them.
Yeah, no,
Up to the second.
absolutely. But I mean,
well, that's what he does.
That is what I
heard
do.
that.
But the fact of the matter is, what we can do with this is interpret the law better, so we can help people who are business owners, or you as a business owner can better manage your business because now you have very clear-cut definition of what should happen and should not happen. Okay.
I just want to clarify though.
Okay.
We say this is a black line, but it is only a
Racist,
black
right?
line against right. It's only a black line against classification.
Mhm.
So if you're
Sure.
under it, you're not exempt.
But you're
over
already
it,
probably
You are.
there as not
Sure.
exempt, right?
Right,
So-
you're already there. But if you're over it, you can't just say, fine, you're
No,
exempt. You
that's
still
true.
have to look at the duties test.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is also something that the Department of Labor is going to enforce.
Unless you're a highly compensated employee,
Which is
that
like
level is
60
at
grand a
100
year?
If you're paid more than $130,000 a year, you can be exempt no matter what.
Wow. There's
No.
still a duties test, it's just an easier duties
Much
test.
easier
They won't look
duties
at
test.
If you're a secretary that saying that, they're gonna say, yeah, whatever. But if it's like a gray area and you're above the line, you do it. So my thinking is you
So
still
like our airline
still want to-
pilots, right?
Well
There's a conversation we bounced
yeah,
around prior,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's airline pilots.
They're probably professionals, I realize.
Yes.
Not executives. So they're probably a professional.
Yeah, right, okay.
Right?
But you've got like an executive assistant is something that comes to mind.
Mhm.
They probably, I mean, it says executive in it, but I would think that no executive assistant would ever be classified as exempt from overtime. I mean, really.
What?
Because what are they doing that has autonomy? They're not really doing. I mean,
I'm
they
sure
have
that
control over people.
there's, I just can, I would imagine that executive assistants, they're not bound by the clock because of the, the job function is satisfying the executive's needs. So
Right.
I dollars to donuts, they're all salary people.
Right.
You know,
And
really.
If it's over 100,000, which some of the I don't know. I don't know enough
It
about the
gets
duties test.
pretty
but
tricky
it's,
in there.
It's interesting.
But
Well, I'm more concerned about the lower end threshold because
Yeah.
that's what matters
So
to the
screw
people.
the executive assistant.
No, but that's what matters to the people that we're serving.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
so
most.
Well,
right now.
so let's talk just a little bit about enforcement, right? So it's really interesting because I was trying to look at the numbers for enforcement, and in 2004 they were here, and then as sort of the Obama administration went up, the number of enforcements went up to here, and it was like 15. It went up from like 12, 13,000 to like 15,000 actions, and then all of a sudden it went down to 7,000 last year, which I was like, why did it go down in half? And I think the reason is because they're getting ready to slam people.
it could be.
So they
Yeah.
went down in half the number of
And they just-
Internalize it though when it's I start doing the work.
They've got the files ready.
They got
Right.
the files ready, and on December 1st, right? Between December
An
1st
army's coming.
and whenever the new, because the new administration might change things,
Right.
they're gonna really go after people.
Well, they can comply now, really.
Right.
Get on the right side of this now and avoid the pain is
Right.
what it
Because
is.
the penalties are twofold, right? So there's
So yeah, here we go.
back wages that are owed over a 2-year look back period, or if they find that it's a willful violation, it's over a 3-year look back period.
I was supposed to say worst case scenario.
But it
still
doesn't
3
meet
years.
that 47,000 when they're looking back past that date.
Not retroactively going forward it would, but still.
No, but the look
Correct.
back's based on their current comp.
Well, I think it's the
that's-
means test if they decide that they're not.
I'd have to look into that. I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
So you keep going with the
Right.
penalties.
So it's that, and then it's either the employee can sue you, or the Department of Labor can enforce you. And either way, they get that same amount of back wages again. And this is how they described it. So it's basically double the back wages. Right?
Double jeopardy?
No, so like
What?
Oh,
say I
no.
owe you
Double
$5,000
jeopardy,
in back wages over the last 2 years. It's actually 10,000 that you're paying, and basically half's going to the employee, half's going to the Department of Labor.
Of course it is.
And then on top of that, they,
Because the government
they have
loves you.
civil monetary penalties, which are
Whoa.
up to $1,000 per violation,
Well,
that
that's
are
not
based
horrible.
per violation would be per employee that you didn't do it for.
All right, that
So
could
it's
be
not per
painful.
violation.
Like yeah,
And
that could be painful.
that is where they have a lot of discretion based on a lot of factors.
Wow.
Oh,
And
that's
things
even
are
worse.
Well, no, because it's very, it has to do with whether you really tried to comply or not. It has to do with your
It's
past history.
willful violation.
Right. And now
I know, but
willful
at the end of the day,
violation.
it's still their judgment call. Versus, because it's what you're describing. Depends, right?
Right, but
Right,
you
so
can
it's
check.
their
If they
judgment
don't-
call.
If they don't, it's like a sentencing thing, right? If they sentence you to murder for pickpocketing somebody, that sentence gets overturned.
Okay.
Right? So they can't go crazy on you.
You
if
shut your
you're-
business down.
Right, they can't shut your business down on civil monetary penalties.
No.
Right,
If you
okay.
are really trying to comply and you've done everything you want to do. and
All right,
you've
but
done-
look, Your Honor, I didn't hire the business squad yet.
But so
I didn't know what I was doing.
Right, we didn't know any of that. Right.
so in summary, there's sufficient motivation to get on the
Right.
right side of this.
Because I think that the duties test is gray, and it's going to be hard to show willful violation. But that number, that threshold, if you're under that and you're getting paid, if you're not getting paid overtime, they're going to say that's willful. Period. No matter what.
Yeah.
And that I think is the main reason they put this.
There's some,
Okay.
there are other things
Okay.
that we just need to
Thank
touch
you.
on with this law that we should move forward with. I think that
No.
it's important to note that obviously the penalties were in place prior to yesterday's regulations, so
Remember,
this stuff has
hand
been
in the
going
man.
on
Hand in the
all
man.
the time. Actually, I
It
have a
doesn't
friend-
mean we understand it.
No, not necessarily. But, I mean, you do need to now because they made the test easier and they raised it, so it's going
Right,
to be a
right.
bigger issue for a lot of people. But I
Correct.
just want to keep going
They
and
made the
saying
pot
that
bigger.
all this stuff that we're talking about, this stuff hasn't changed. There's a very minute amount of things that have actually changed here.
Yes.
But for example, I had a friend who was a software developer for a company in San Francisco. This stuff happened to him 10 years ago. His company ended up having to pay him $75,000 for civil penalties because they
Sure.
had a group of developers. They were making work exorbitant amount of hours, and they
Right.
sued. And afterwards, they went back and had to do every single one of their developers in their whole organization whether or not they paid overtime or not, or worked overtime or not, every single one of them was due back.
Given a
money.
check or something.
It's important to know that this stuff is important and you need to follow the
Get it,
regulation.
yeah.
Right.
But as of what's changed now, you know, the law went up, the wage limit went up, the classification became a little bit easier. There are still a lot of employees that are actually exempt from this law. So if you are a professional employee in most types, so we're talking lawyers, doctors, accountants.
Of course, they would never do anything to make lawyers pay.
Of course not.
No.
Lawyers,
You
doctors,
guys should just
CPAs,
sue
and
each
teachers
overtime.
Yeah, right.
are not covered by this law.
I know,
So,
but you say this, so Fast Company, Business Insider, Harvard Business Review all said that of all the salaried employees in all of the United States that get a
Right.
salary, 35% are affected by this law.
Huge.
That, but you minimize this. All these people.
Okay, but
I
they're
love
not
you.
considering-
I love you. You both. It's all good. But I gotta tell you, 3 big organizations said that 35% affected. I gotta lean with.
Okay, but the
35%
Department of
effective,
Labor is
right?
also a big organization.
Yeah.
And their numbers,
Are-
when they
they
say this is how
underplayed
many
it.
people are affected,
They
if
should-
they're wrong on that,
they're pretty
they get
accurate.
sued
Yeah.
and the whole rule gets thrown out.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
Whereas
then,
Harvard Business Review, if they over-exaggerate, what happens?
So what did they say?
but then I would say that based on that, right? So if these 3 groups are like, oh, we're smoking dope and we're crazy, right? And then they
It's
don't end up.
clickbait. That's what those articles are clickbait.
Not if they produce a well. No.
I'm
Okay, so
telling
let's
you.
just
Now, go back.
so
What does
here's
the
something
Department of
else.
Labor say?
No, I don't think it matters how many exactly are affected.
It doesn't.
Well, I think
the number that's pretty accurate for Michigan, there's about 100,000 people in Michigan who will be affected by
It
this.
doesn't. I don't think it
But-
matters because everybody needs to look at it now because enforcement's coming, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
that's a great
because
point.
even if it's whether it's 100,000 in Michigan, whether it's
Yeah.
a million in Michigan, I have no idea if your business.
Check your house.
is
If you have employees, make sure it's right.
Right. Yeah. You basically have to do that.
Well, that's
because I
another
really
thing.
think-
I mean, so some of the seminars that I've been through lately, this is basic application for a business. If you have salaried exempt employees, basically anyone who makes anywhere near or below the threshold, you need to basically review their compensation package and
Yeah.
make a determination on how are these employees going to be paid now and going forward, and you need to implement appropriate procedures on how to move forward. So for me, if I had a client sitting down with me, I would say, let's look at all your salaried employees and the classifications you currently have. Who's below 47,270? Are you going to make these employees hourly? Are you going to keep them as salaried? Or are you going to give them a pay raise? 20% of that compensation can be considered a bonus or supplemental compensation. So, for example, if you have salespeople who are making $30,000
But it has to be
base,
paid quarterly at least, if not.
at least quarterly. I don't think you've ever seen most salespeople at least are probably being paid
Monthly.
compensation
Yeah.
monthly. So they're in there. So you can include that in there, or if you're getting a quarterly bonus to someone, that can get included. But you have to make the determination: are we going to raise them because we know they work a ton of overtime, or are we going to switch them to timekeeping? Okay, so we're switching them to salaried, hourly sensitive. We're switching them to hourly. How are we going to communicate that change with our employees and make sure they know that we're not changing this so we can, do all this, big
Well-
brother watching over what you're
Well,
doing. We're doing this because it's a positive incentive for the work that you do and that you'll be paid for the time that you put into your job. And it's important, it's a cultural importance to how you implement those changes within your business. And that is an important aspect. It's not all bad. This can be a very good thing for employee morale. This can be a very good thing within your business and for productivity. It's just how you implement it and how you communicate it to your employees.
Well, it's complicated, and I was just going to say, and what you had provided us to kind of bone up on this and get ready, indicated that there's exemptions for outside salespeople.
For outside salespeople, there's a large group of sales that are also internal sales.
You really there's so many exemptions. There's
Yeah.
so many businesses
Holes,
it applies
right?
to. It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's really so. It's really
So it's a perfect opportunity for the business squad to help people.
Sure. Because one
I
of the
think it's
things
the
that
best
I think is going to happen is the primary duties test,
How
right?
is that?
Because there was a lot of concern about the primary duties test, and the Department of Labor
Want
really
some?
wanted to change it to make
Yeah.
it easier, and they said, you know what, we're actually not going to do it. So you need to remember that it's not as easy as just raising the salary.
No.
Because
sure.
if you raise the salary and then they come in and they say, you raised their salary, because they're going to come in, right? They're going to audit our rate. You raised their salary. Tell me, what do their duties look like? And they're going to look at the duties.
Right.
And you can't just say, oh, well, he's the assistant manager. No. The Department of Labor called out people. They specifically, and this is pretty bad, right? So everybody submits comments, everybody submits stories, and the Department of Labor picked out some people. They picked on Family Dollar pretty hard.
Yeah.
And they said, look, Family Dollar, you've got all these managers, but they spend 75% of their time clerking and stocking the shelf, and only 25% managing. So you can't characterize them as executives. You have to characterize them as employees, as hourly people with executive responsibilities. So one of the things that I think of is maybe what Family Dollar does then is instead of doing that, they literally just take fewer managers and have them be 100% managers, promote them,
Sure.
and then take responsibilities away from the other people. Because that to me seems like it might make more sense.
But and again, that's going to feed back into what Ellen was talking about. These are cultural decisions that you have to make within your business, and making a cultural change like that is not always a bad thing.
Right.
And it's not always detrimental to your finances.
You can talk
It
over
might
it,
be.
Ellen.
I don't feel like I can.
No, you can. Absolutely.
I see you're
Absolutely.
getting ready to.
Family Dollar might actually find that they end up becoming more productive because they take all these people they had as assistant managers and make them hourly employees, and then they consolidate the manager duties into one position.
And look, Family Dollar is not our target market. Right?
No,
So in
not at all.
thinking, but using that example, if you think about who our target market is, who are the business owners that we can really help, I think about how this applies to them. This is a great opportunity to stop being the person who's always working in your business and take a few minutes to work on your business. This is a perfect example of ways that they really need to sit down and reevaluate. What are they doing and how are they doing it? Do they have good job descriptions in place that accurately reflect what the responsibilities and expectations are?
Right.
Do they have an
I bet you Jodi could
organizational
help with that if she was here.
do they have an organizational structure that's in place that lends itself to the kinds of job descriptions that follow from it? Are they implementing the kind of culture? Are they equipping their people through training opportunities, through coaching and development opportunities? Are they really equipping them to do the jobs the way that they need to be done? So honestly, for our target market, this is a perfect opportunity for them to sit down to be able to demonstrate that they are trying to be compliant with the rules as they've been and with the changes coming. It's a great opportunity to sit down and take stock. That's all I wanted to say.
I like that.
What
No,
Ellen
it
and I were
sounds
talking
really
about
good.
last week is that there's also who's affected by this business as far as how large your business is. Are you covered by FSLA law? And for the most part, we were talking about a little bit of interstate commerce, but if you have like less than 10 employees and you are under a $500,000 revenue business, then you're not covered by FSLA at all anyway. So this law doesn't affect your business.
Right.
That's a big deal though,
And
because
it is a big deal.
most of the startup companies today, that's those,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
Yeah. So
Yeah, but that threshold is,
Well,
in this
that's
day and
the
age, is not that hard to
cottage
meet.
rate,
But again, this is a perfect opportunity for those businesses that are under the threshold that aren't covered to change their culture so that when they get to it,
Right.
they're already compliant.
Sure.
So that you're
So-
scaling up with the right culture. You're
Right.
growing with the right
Right,
culture in
right,
place.
So
Well,
Absolutely.
thinking forward thinking instead of, old school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
is,
Lay the groundwork solidly now so that as you build, you're doing it the right way.
and this law gives you the opportunity to say, I as a business owner
it's the
know
law. I got 'em.
It's a law, and I'm gonna have to react to it at some point, so I need to plan my business around it.
Right.
And who knows? Making those plans could make you more successful in the future.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I think of when I was in a restaurant and you had the managers, and I think the restaurant industry is really, Department of Labor, they've been going after them on tip sharing and all that. They've been going after them
Tip
on
pool.
overtime.
Like the one right
Yeah.
across the parking lot from us.
Yeah, they've
Who
been
got
going
sued a
after-
couple $1 million.
Yeah, they've been going after
Chinese place.
don't open a curtain.
Yeah, really.
Right, big.
Don't go back and look at the episodes before we put the curtain up.
Yeah, that's
one of the managers.
You're gonna
that we
make up
had
for that.
Spent the vast majority of her
Couldn't do
time
it.
working behind the bar or doing
Yeah.
whatever, and she really couldn't manage the staff floor. And when the owners finally sucked it up and said, "We're going to pay more people
Mhm.
to be on the floor so that you can actually manage,"
Yeah.
the shifts went 100% better,
Yeah.
and the customers were happy.
And they
it
were
was-
probably more profitable afterwards.
I
And
guarantee
See,
it.
I
Kumbaya and hug a tree.
I see
I
this-
say no.
Yeah.
Coal in the pipe, shut!
Sure. Yeah, and I don't. It's not always going to work that way. Obviously, Family Dollar's a little bit different. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not.
You're an optimist, though. I never thought you were such an optimist, though.
I know, people stop.
I think this is an opportunity, though. I see this as a positive change,
Yeah.
honestly, and I see it as an opportunity for business owners to be thinking about how are they incentivizing loyalty and
Exactly.
productivity
I like that.
in their workforce.
Exactly.
And if they're creating a culture that rewards people according to how much they're actually putting into the business and acknowledges that, instead of making it such a competitive, I gotta sacrifice, I can't be physically
The government's
present.
forced me to give up my
Listen,
profits.
I'm going to my kid's band concert tonight after this, right? If I'm an employee working in this space that qualifies as somebody that could get pinged for this, right? I'm
Mhm.
sitting at my kid's band concert. I want to be able to enjoy my kid's band concert. I don't want to be thinking,
Yeah.
shit, if I don't check my email and keep up, Joe is going to get ahead of me, or George over there is going to sell that account and I won't be able to. I better sit and check my email
I don't
while
know
I'm
if
at
this
my
is
kid's
to get
band
rid of
concert.
that.
Well, but I'm saying if you're creating a different kind of a culture in your company that's actually compensating people for the
At
time
5
that they're
o'clock,
doing-
it was 5 o'clock.
and
in there,
creating a
right?
different
Yeah.
culture, it's an opportunity, and
Yeah,
I think
no,
it's one
okay,
that people
alright.
can benefit from.
Yeah, I mean,
don't
it's,
see it has
it's,
to be
it's
bad.
a
So you
great
want
thing to
socialism?
say.
What?
I mean, let's say I'm a manager in a small restaurant. I'm making $29,000 a year
Right.
as an exempt manager of everything, and I work 60 hours a week.
And you know what? Olive Garden sucks anyway,
Yeah,
so
no,
leave it.
I know, but this is what
You
I'm
gotta
saying.
stop disparaging
As
companies,
the manager of
dude.
this restaurant making $29,000 a year, that $29,000 might be significantly more than everyone who works under me.
Yeah.
But at my 60 hours, I'm probably earning
Less
less
than
right.
the
than
average
every
guy.
single one of the people who work for
It's
me
happening.
on average
I agree with
per
that.
hour.
Absolutely.
I agree
And
with
it
that
is
all
not
day.
appropriate as a business owner
I agree
to
with
do
that
that
all
to your
day.
employees because you're not properly incentivizing them to
Right.
work for you.
And some
Be
of them
honest,
are
it-
compelled to
So
work those
let's get
hours.
real about it. It's not right. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, let's just call it for what it is, right? You say incentive and all that, and that's cool. You're trying to paint it in nice verbiage for everybody that's listening, but reality at the end of the day is you as the owner, you should know and operate from a compass inside
Absolutely.
Sure.
that says,
absolutely.
I am going to go forward with treating people as right as I want to be treated. If I want to be Scrooge McDuck or Scrooge in general, or
Scrooge McDuck is
stab
good.
my neighbor and climb over his corpse, great, congratulations, you are old economy thinking, and it's good. There's still people that think like that. But at the end of the day, if you're like, well, I want to do right by these people because I want them to do right by me, golden rule for you religious cats. The rest of us, it just seems right. And then you're going to operate that way.
And that's great. And I mean, business owners you
But-
can run your business any way you want. You
I
can
agree
pay your
with that.
employees what they want. If they work for you, that's their prerogative. If you don't incentivize your employees enough to have loyalty to you, you're going to have a really high
And
turnover.
that's what we do. You're
It
going to
makes
do what you
a-
get.
It costs so much more money to hire employees
Sure.
over and over and over and over and over again to work in your business
In the grinder,
than
yep.
it is to properly
No, I
incentivize your
want to say
employees
something.
and make sure they work for you for a long period of time.
You know what? My sense when all this came down, was that it's just righting a wrong. It's just how I felt this whole law was. This adjustment or whatever. It's just righting a wrong that was done. In 2004, just to make it easier for businesses.
It
So
is, and-
really, is what I is
But
the way
the
my
flip to
sense.
it is, so back to that point, let's go to the other end of it is, you as a business owner, you're thinking, holy shit, I'm going to lose my business over this. And I would tell you that there's this huge financial impact. I haven't spoke much about that today.
Yeah.
We're talking about the emotional, the whole cultural issue, all that stuff, the law, and there is an impact. So that's the reality of it. So, but that gets back to, where are you wasting money in your structure and other places?
Absolutely.
Can we squeeze that excess out?
Yeah.
So you can pay for it where it matters. Because at the end of the day, the person that touches your customer,
Right.
that's the one that matters. And the second one that matters is you, who gives them the vision, the direction, the leadership, the structure with when to operate in, regardless of the business. So if it comes down to the cost,
Yeah.
we're going to help you solve that problem as best possible. Don't let that hang you up from being compliant to the law, helping out the man with complying with what they need to do to pay, creating the right culture. That shouldn't hang you up.
I'm also going to state that there was math to the way they set the new limit. It's not unmathematical. They take Department of Labor numbers.
Dodgy.
They basically set this at a 30%. So 30% of the salaried employees in the country.
40.
What are they?
I thought it was 40.
40%. Take that number. Okay, that's where we're going to set the threshold at.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to revisit that number
Every 3 years. Yeah.
So,
Well, now it's up to speed to where it should be, and it's going to grow accordingly. And it's just they changed the rules, and now we're gonna learn to live with
And
them.
honestly, it's a bad thing because it was so long since they changed the rule, and it hadn't updated for so long that it just looks so bad because it's a huge shock to the update.
Right.
It's
And
a huge number shock.
Unfair.
Yeah.
Right? It's unfair that business owners now have to go from 22 to 50.
I'm not. Yeah, absolutely.
That's not fair. And
No.
it should have been done a long time ago. But in the big picture, when you look at everything, it is going to probably be better for everybody, and it also is going to affect every employer.
Yeah.
So your competitors are also going to have to be doing this.
That's right.
And if they keep
Yeah.
trying to skirt the line, eventually the deal
They will be
is gonna fall.
competitors.
Or
Well,
you
That's
could
right.
even
They're gonna have to
don't tell
adjust.
anybody that
You know,
you
but
could talk to one of their employees and be like, hey, maybe you should go check out the DOL website.
Yeah.
and see
So
that.
let's get real about the whole economic end of it. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
consumer, you pay for this new price increase. All this other talk aside, because what happens is business owners pass on cost. I'm gonna make a profit, otherwise I'm not doing my business. So the cost just rolls through. So you as a consumer, your prices are gonna go up. So unrelated this, but related, when people are screaming about a raised minimum wage, well, $15 an hour, right? At the end of the day, I was like, go ahead. Doesn't mean that the person that was paid at the minimum pay scale is now going to go buy a Maserati with their new money. It's not. Because everything goes up relative to the scale of that in price. It's just what it is.
But purchasing, you pay your employees more, they purchase more.
But it's all...
okay
It's a
then.
cyclical
Alright.
thing.
All
It's
right.
not.
All right.
Reality is, you have $1, you can only spend $1 once. That's the reality, period. So if I give you $1 or 15 of them per hour and I give him a magical $15, his magical 15 doesn't become 30 just because I gave him $15. And I can give math all day on this.
From my side of the standpoint, people on the lower end of the pay scale spend a much higher percentage of
I've
their
heard the
wages.
argument. I
in
get they
Well,
spend
we're
all
not.
the money.
I don't want to go.
I know it's not, but the reality is, because it's the argument that comes up all the time. Bottom line is, you can make that argument all you want. I have $100,000 in income. I don't magically now have $150,000 because I paid out all $100,000 to whoever. I don't. Doesn't happen. And $150,000 doesn't magically return to my business. It doesn't happen. So that's economic models, and I can prove it 95 times if you want 18 different.
I think we're losing the audience.
Point being is, well, that's my point. I'm like, stop! Don't get on this whole thing. The consumer is, at the end of the day, is going to pay for this increase, but it's okay because it's what was long overdue in the grand scheme of it. It won't affect everybody's household,
Right.
but the increase will be felt by everybody at the end of the day in some small part.
We just have to learn how to adjust and deal with it and
I
keep your
get
business
that,
profitable.
But people need to understand that it's going to change. So I'll give you an example. Like the dollar store, most likely when this is over, Family Dollar won't be Family Dollar. It'll probably be Family $1.50.
I
Right?
don't necessarily know that's true, but
Well, but
It
because
could
they
be,
can't.
but that's
Well, they
theoretical.
can't make their goods any less cheaper that they sell to you, so they have to absorb the labor cost, right? Either that Sally, who was putting the stuff on the shelf, suddenly becomes a robot. I mean, she's doing it, right? She's no longer there, or Sally gets her new price, right? Well, that new price has to be spread across
Yeah.
all the goods.
That's right.
It's economics.
Well,
So there's no magic
So I
formula.
guess what I would say.
I don't want to get into that argument because
Well, but
I
that
don't think
argument's part of the
no,
reality.
But
of
I
the
understand
bill.
what you just said. I'm just saying that
It's the reality of it.
and I get that. But
I'm not
you
saying it's good or bad.
know, no, and companies have to do it. But to
Yeah.
start arguing whether that's valid, what
I'm
Dave said
not-
was valid or not,
No,
I don't think it's going to
I'm
serve
not
anything right
necessarily
now.
arguing what
Here's-
Jem
I
says
guess
it says
let's
valid.
just-
I'm
let's
just
just-
offering a counterpoint.
Right,
But
but let's just, if prices do go up, right, this
They
is
will.
something you're going to have to be, when prices then, right?
That's
Uh-oh.
Hey, we're back. Sorry about that.
Hiccup.
Our camera had a twitch.
Right. So you sell hamburgers for $5, they sell hamburgers for $5.
Yeah.
You read all these rules, you become compliant, you raise your hamburgers to $10, right? Just
they don't.
And they don't. And so your customers are going to be like, well, I'm not going to you anymore. There's two things you need to do, right? One thing is you need to tell the people why you're doing it.
Because they be there, they'll say,
That's the other- I mean,
No, you
have
can
to
call
tell
your
the Department
customers
of
why
Labor
you're
why
doing
they're
it.
doing it.
This is a whole nother show we're getting into, guys.
Well, no, I'm just saying you post an explanation.
No, I get it, I get it.
well,
Raise
but he's
prices.
just saying to prove why you got to be competitive and why you're not price competitive. I get all that.
Sure.
You know, that's fair, and it's a fair argument. You got
And
to
I
tell
think
your
it's
customer.
important to explain to your employees too, and this is kind of what Alan's been talking about with the culture, is you don't just do it, you have to tell people why you're doing it so that
Yeah.
they understand.
And
That's
And
absolute.
customers too.
That's an
absolutely.
absolute. You have to explain to your customers why you're doing it. You explain to your employees why you're doing it. Your culture change. Your employees are more loyal to you. Your customers get better service and they want to shop with you at the
They
higher
should.
price.
Well,
So I mean, that's the way things can move.
That's the way.
I mean,
So-
I'm an optimist. What can I mean?
No, and it's awesome. But I was, I keep thinking about the tip of the day, and
Well, so I'm glad you say that. So let's close with that in our last 5 minutes.
no,
You thought we had no form today, but we have some. I blame Alan for the rest.
I made an agenda. It's not my fault nobody followed it.
no, but I mean this ties, and I'm gonna share.
Yeah, so start
Here-
with our tip of the day.
here's a tip of the day. What I say from my own experience is include your employees in how you're going to make the adjustments. You know what I mean? And empower them to be part of the decision.
Why
And-
you gotta be like that? Why you gotta
So-
steal my tip of the day?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know what? Get insurance just in case.
I got a plan for that.
You can include them in the insurance decisions. How about
Yeah.
that?
In a lot of ways, that impacts their lives
Give
more
them
than
options.
the payroll.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that really it is about including people in how you manage change within your organization. There are good ways you can manage that change and create alignment, and there are ways in which you can completely undermine the very people that are going to help make your business successful by not sharing what the growth trajectory looks like and not sharing the reasons behind why you do what you do. So there's the right ways to manage that change and create the alignment in the organization, and it's critical that you do that.
Ellen can help.
That's right.
So there's only so many hours that you have in a day as an owner, and you need to recognize that trying to figure out how all these rules work together is not how you should be spending your time. Because A, it's going to take you a lot longer than somebody like James or myself who know what's going on with this. And B, you should be thinking more about what Alan's talking about
Yes.
and spending time on, and what James is talking about too, right? Both of it, right? There's going to be a change in the numbers, there's going to be a change in the culture, and that's where your brain power should be going. So you should be meeting with James and meeting with Ellen, and not doing your payroll calculations, right? Just give that to James and say, be done with it. You know, and not changing your handbook, right? Give that to Jodi, who's our HR person, you know? So you really need to recognize when all these rules come down that you can't get down to the nitty gritty because you'll just get lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
Okay.
We're all kumbaya.
So
No,
I was gonna take that as your tip.
Yeah, I know. So here's your tip. You have to sit down at the end of the day and say, look, my time is worth X as the owner. So if I made $100,000 in profit in the year and I want 2,000 hours of work with a year, that means my time's worth X, $50 an hour, right? Is my time that I'm spending on all this other stuff $50 an hour or more in cost and I'm saving that? Probably not. So outsource it, and that goes through your whole organization. Because guess what? You're not special. Do it through the whole damn process and outsource everything that is not involved with making your service or your widget, whatever that is, and the people who will educate those within your organization making the service and widget specific to the widget or the service. The rest, get it off your plate, because guess what happens? It's called economies of scale. Google it. It's an economic geek term, and it says that what happens, you get greater efficiencies as people become specialized in certain segments, like payroll expert, legal expert, expert in morale, leadership, right? Expert in benefits. You don't have all that skill set. Well, they do. So they get economies of scale. You don't. So you need to. And you need to make sure that what you do is relative to that rule.
Right.
I'm done.
That's
Well,
good.
remember, outsourcing too does not mean you send it to India, right?
Oh, no, you send it to Brighton, Michigan. The people in Brighton, Michigan are very nice, and the guy wears a great hat.
You
He
can
wears nice
outsource
hat,
it
very
to
nice
a local
guys.
company that's around your business that knows everybody, and so you're not,
His name is
don't
Ben.
think outsourcing and be
But
like,
also wears a very nice hat and a great mustache. And not an Indian.
I'm wearing a hat next week.
Today. Okay, guys.
It's pretty
I have
mustache.
2 tips.
All right.
This is really important.
All right. No.
Oh, two
Okay.
is
One is
supposed
going to
go
tie
last.
back into Ellen. Okay. You need to take these changes and make them work for you. You need to make these changes, change your culture if they need to change, communicate well to your employees, use this as an incentive for your employees, make your business better.
Carrot versus
Okay.
stick.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't look at them as a curmudgeon saying, "Oh, I'm gonna spend so much more. These people don't work. They're not worth this extra overtime." That's not the way this works. They are worth the extra overtime. If they're working for it, you should probably pay them for it. Make it work for you. Okay, that's tip number 1. Okay.
Or get rid of
Tip
it.
number 2. If you don't have an accurate time tracking system right now, you need to get one. Because if the Department of Labor comes knocking on your door and you don't have an accurate timekeeping system for your hourly or salaried employees, you're screwed.
And that ties into your duty test too, because they will look at that hourly thing and see what they did.
Yeah.
So you want to see that it actually tracks what they're doing,
Yeah.
and you want to see that what they're doing, if they're over the limit, what they're doing relates to what the primary.
The primary thing you do not want to happen is have a person from the Department of Labor decide how many hours your employees are working in your
Right.
business.
Right.
No,
That
that's
you do not want to have
That's a
happen.
party
If
foul.
you want to
So-
hear about how facts are decided on the
Right.
administrative level, I did a case of the week a couple of weeks, and basically the administration, the agency does it,
Yeah.
and that's how it is.
You do not want that to happen. So if you're not accurately tracking wages, hours worked,
Call
do
us.
it. I can help you with that.
We'll help.
We can develop a good system for you.
We got
It doesn't
plans.
cost $1 million, and you know
250,000.
maybe, but it's a case by case basis.
No.
No.
So, and the last thing, didn't we want to solicit questions and comments and concerns from our viewing
Yeah.
audience?
Yeah.
Was that the
Good.
last? I just want to
That's
remind
great,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if
sure.
you've been listening to this, you got a million questions because I talk in legalese and James talks in numberlese and
Finances.
James talks in a weird mix of both, right? So like,
Yeah. Right.
leave them on the video. We'll answer them next week, right?
Yeah.
Or
We
something.
will.
Put
I
it
would,
on
Well,
I
that's
would,
okay.
I would love to answer as many questions as you have on it. I'm sure Ben would too.
Sure.
You just
leave
drop
them there.
the challenge.
Yeah.
Drop the glove, people, and run with it. With that being said, I have to tell you all, thank you for watching.
Thanks.
And I appreciate you tuning in for the special impromptu, off-the-cuff, not our normal episode, but we felt this law was an important issue to bring forward and talk about. Even though the law's not new, but all the changes are,
Yeah.
and the impact is actually going to be very big across the country as a
Yep.
whole. It's going to affect everybody at the end of the day.
Right.
So to that, have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next Thursday. And on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. That's you guys right there. You guys are Facebook.
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 We'll have tweeters over in that corner over there somewhere.